What is up, y'all? OD'd here once again, and Mac Grills is doing a recipe contest on their website, so I figured I would enter my tri-tip brisket style. So let's get that video started. All right, y'all, we have this beautiful USDA prime tri-tip. I like to go prime. If you can't get prime, you can just use choice. It's not that big of a deal, but obviously prime has a little more fat and you'll get a little bit more flavor. So you can see it has nice striations of fat through here. This is gonna basically help the meat kind of marinate itself, and this again will add flavor. I'm gonna do some basic trimming on here. This little piece right here I'll probably take out. And then if you flip it over, this cap right here, I would personally leave this because my heat source is coming from the bottom on the Mac, and this kind of acts as a protectant. Although these pieces over here, I will probably just cut all these out and then leave this. And then once it's done cooking, as I'm slicing it, I will cut this off. So let's get this trimmed up and then we'll come back and rub down the tri-tip. All right, y'all, we did the basic trimming on the tri-tip. I took this little piece off here, took this little bit off over here. And by the way, if you get a tri-tip and they've already cut the fat cap off on the bottom, it's not the end of the world. This just helps with protecting the meat a little bit as you cook it. So the tri-tip rub is, are you ready? I'm also gonna put this down in the description, so if you don't write it down right now, remember it's not that big of a deal. I use 2 tablespoons of pepper. Then I use 2 tablespoons of smoked pepper. If you can't find smoked pepper, just use 4 tablespoons of pepper. 8 teaspoons of garlic salt. 4 teaspoons of dry mustard. 4 teaspoons of paprika. I like to use sweet Hungarian paprika. And a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now you're not gonna use that entire mixture on one tri-tip, but you'll have a little bit left over in case you wanna do this again. And then you just liberally apply it to the meat. Let's also talk about why someone would be crazy enough or why you would even want to cook a tri-tip brisket style. I grew up in Central California and I live in Central California now, and I have had tri-tip cooked medium rare for many, many years. I think it's actually very delicious like that. This is just a different way you can cook a tri-tip in case you want to do something different. Or if you want something that tastes like a brisket and you don't want to end up with, you know, 9, 10, 15 pounds of brisket because you're only going to cook for 2 or 3 people. So this is a great alternative to making a brisket, and it comes out really, really good. All right, so that's pretty much it. You basically just rub this thing down, and then I'm gonna let it sit in the fridge overnight. If you have enough time to do so, I would recommend to do so. It is a slightly thick cut of meat on this end, and you really want the rub to permeate the meat. So I'm gonna put this in a food saver bag, stick it in the fridge, and we'll get back on this tomorrow. All right, y'all, it is the next day. We got the Mac fired up. It's sitting at 275. I think 275 is a good temperature for the tri-tip brisket, as you can get all those striations of fat within the meat to kind of melt off and baste the meat as it's cooking. I'm also going to put the tri-tip on the top rack. That way you can get a lot of smoke and air circulation around the tri-tip, and it'll cook more evenly and you can get a better smoke ring. So we're going to put the tri-tip in the Mac, top rack, 275. I'm going to put a probe in the thickest part of the meat, and we're going to cook it to an internal temp of 160 degrees, and then I'll show you guys what I'm going to do after that. All right, y'all, it has now been about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and the tri-tip has reached an internal temperature of 160. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, looking nice. Also want to show you guys my setup. As I said, I put it on the top shelf, put the probe in on the side there. Also put a pan on the bottom just to catch the drippings. That way it'll be a easier cleanup. And then for those of you that have a Mac, how I set this up is I have the deflector plate in there without any holes on it. If you don't have this, then use the regular plate and then put the flame zone covers on top of it. So anyways, we're now going to take this off. We're going to throw it into this pan, put some foil on top of it, and then we're going to take it up to an internal temperature of 190. I'm also going to move the tri-tip down to the bottom rack because we don't really need the airflow and, you know, and all that kind of stuff at this point. And also it'll cook a little quicker once it's in the pan. All right, people, we are now at 2 hours 55 minutes and the tri-tip has reached 190. So once we put it into the pan, put the foil on the top, stuck it on the bottom rack, it jumped up to 190 really quickly. At this point, we're gonna go ahead and take it off. We're gonna bring it inside, and I'm basically just gonna sit it down and let it rest for 30 minutes. Do at least 30 minutes, I would say. You can do up to an hour if you want. And then if you want to hold it, so you get it done early, I would then wrap it in a towel, maybe put it in a cooler, and you can let it sit like that for probably up to 2 hours. But In this case, I'm ready to eat when it's ready, but I want to let it rest for at least 30 minutes. That way the tri-tip can kind of redistribute all those juices. So yeah, we'll let it rest and then we're gonna go ahead and cut it up. All right, y'all, tri-tip has rested. Let's check it out, see what it looks like. Oh yeah, look at the color on that. Very nice. Got all that juice. This is why I use the pan, people, so you can keep that juice right there, because that is tasty goodness. So let's put this on a cutting board and cut it up, see what it looks like on the inside. All right, y'all, let's get this tri-tip cut up, and this next step is gonna be one of the most important parts of the video right here. Tri-tips, actually the grain in them run two different ways. I don't know if you can see it. This one is going this way and this one is going this way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it right here down the middle, and then we'll cut this one like this and then cut this one this way. Looks great. Also, we need to cut this fat cap off of the bottom, so let's do that. All right, now that the cap is off, you can really see that grain, which way it's running like this. So I'm gonna flip it around. Cut it against the grain like that. All right, y'all, here's what it looks like once it is cut up, and this is another reason why I use a pan. That way you can put the tri-tip into the pan and then kind of run it through the juices, and it gets it nice and juicy looking. Check that out. We're gonna take this little piece right here and take a little taste. That is amazing, people. You get the nice rub on there, a little bit of flavor from the bark, the smoke, and of course the beef flavor. Very good. Mac people, try your tri-tip like this. It is really good and a nice alternative to cooking it the regular Santa Maria style. My name is OD and I am out. Peace.